I'd like to share with you a few tips if you're in this rather complicated job market and looking for a job with a high-performing company. The first tip refers to the fact that it's true that opportunities are scarce when compared to a few years ago when all these major companies were growing headcount. However, what's going on these days is all these companies still hire for some roles simply because they suffer of the same disease of attrition. Attrition basically means that the average job tenure for a FAANG employee is 3 to 4 years. I'm being generous here. It's true that some of these employees would move internally, but still attrition is something to your favor as a candidate. It simply means they are still looking for qualified candidates. So while the job opportunities might not sound as exceptional as previously, believe me when I tell you that they're still looking for qualified candidates for finance managers, senior technical PMs, software engineers, and these type of roles. The second tip I'd like to share with you here is that while it's true that hiring cycles have become twice or even 3 times longer than previously, I'm having someone interview at Apple right now, and the hiring cycle takes close to 5 months, and it will go even further than that. However, not many candidates realize that, hey, you know what, you could also take this to your advantage. What do I mean by this? The number one challenge candidates have going into job interviews, they wish they have more time to take that interview more seriously. So if you're serious about landing a job offer these days, then you have plenty of time to consider preparing for the occasion. Tip number 3 here refers to shorter interviews. So the traditional interview used to be 60 minutes. Nowadays, what I see more and more companies, Netflix, Apple, Nvidia, and probably more, are trending towards 30-minute interviews, simply because they realize that, hey, you know what, we don't need more than 30 minutes to understand a candidate's qualification. And of course, they can have 7 interviews of 30 minutes if they wish so. But the point is that they migrated from the rather long 60 to 30 minutes. This could also be to your advantage simply because you as a candidate, in my experience, will have a hard time keeping that level of intensity even, or you to be able to perform at your best for 60 minutes straight. Even companies such as Amazon, even though they still advertise as their interviews being 60 minutes, oftentimes those interviews are rather closer to the 30 minutes mark, and then with some questions for them. And, they also observed that they don't need 60 minutes all the time. Of course, exceptions apply. So for you as a candidate, giving sharp answers, even concise if you want, or, on the other extreme, you could take your time to answer, give a perfect answer within 10 minutes, and then you'll only have to give 2 such answers in the whole interview. But the point is that 30 minutes are also to your advantage as a candidate if you want to take these interviews seriously. Advice number 4 here. If you'd be looking in the job reports and in the employment numbers, as of recently, you'll probably have noticed an interesting indicator there is that the job market participation is quite low. In other words, there's considerably fewer people on the job market because many of these candidates have decided that they no longer want to apply for jobs. I don't know, maybe they could afford staying outside of the job market. And this could also be something to your advantage because, you see a ton of noise of automated applications and hundreds, if not thousands of applications for one role. What I can tell you is that in the final interviews, there's still going to be at best 5 candidates total. So if market participation is quite low, you can imagine how you can turn this as well to your advantage. one of the key reasons why my business, for instance, I advise people with their job interviews, is not doing as well these days is because many of the customers I have prefer to stay in the same role or prefer to stay outside the job market because they feel like, it's too tough for them. So again, if you feel like you're qualified for the role that you're applying for, I believe this could also be to your advantage. And the fifth piece of advice I'd like to share with you here for you as a candidate is, of course, that AI has, changed the perceptions of how candidates sell themselves in job interviews, of how interviewers screen candidates, not always for the better. And AI could also change how you perform in your interview for the better if you know how to use it. Right? I'm not suggesting you reward your answers using AI, not suggesting you should use an AI agent during your interviews. I believe these are things that will never work. But what I would suggest is that if you want, for example, to improve your answers, you could also get into a conversation, so to speak, with an AI agent to improve, if you know where the bar is, right? So if you know that your answers are here and you must go up to there, you could use AI to improve, right? If you don't know where the bar is, I also sell training programs with examples from successful candidates. I even developed a framework designed to benefit the candidate for these job interviews. Another use case for AI that you could use for your job interviews, and oftentimes for very little cost or even free, would be to practice with an automated agent, so to speak, practicing delivery, even recording yourself. Could also be a very interesting approach because, in my opinion, there's only two things you must excel at to pass this job interviews: your story bank, that is your answers. The second is how you deliver your role play in these job interviews. So you could use AI in both use cases. Again, if you feel like this is the best employment and this helps you the best when compared to, example, for paying for someone to help you with these things. So I hope you found this useful and thank you very much for watching.